knew dancing on TikTok was cult-like behavior. That's why you'll never see me dancing up on there. So mostly because I'm not getting paid for it, but still. So we've got another cult case on Netflix, and this time it's about dancing on TikTok. And I'm kind of surprised it took someone so long to radicalize TikTok dancing. I mean, have you guys heard the get up here, just dance audio? Like it's like crack. So anyway, this particular Netflix documentary is called Dancing for the Devil. It's about this church, of course, that is also like an agency called 7M Films. And we kind of dive into it with these TikTok famous sisters called the Wilking Sisters. They have been dancing since birth. Like they have the home videos and everything. And they basically knew like this was their chance to dance because not only they love it, but also it could like make them go far. And so they moved to good old LA and try and make something of themselves, right? Because nothing terrible ever happens when bright-eyed and bushy-tailed women go off into sparkling LA with nothing but dreams and a drive. So at first, it's kind of going okay, but a lot of times the jobs are like, "Oh, we don't want you guys to dance next to each other. You guys can't like dance and look the same." So a lot of separation going on between the girls anyway, and they've danced together their whole lives at this point, so it's kind of frustrating. Enter TikTok. So TikTok dancing was just starting to take off in this timeline. And even though these sisters have been like professional dancers for singers, productions, and even on national talent shows, nothing was like really stable until they posted their first YouTube and TikTok videos. So shout out technology. You are the real one. So online, of course, they love that people are, they're sisters, they look alike, they're dancing together. Like that's what we call a niche, okay? Twinning for TikTok is very lucrative, apparently. And it also brought them more connections, deals, partnerships, sponsorships than any old dusty LA, callback could ever give them. So they roll with it. Enter walking red flag number one. The sisters meet up with this like legendary dancer who's super popular and famous for making the dance of krump become really popular, which krump it originated during the 2000s as street dancing, and it was a way to confront and work through difficult emotions. And so it's like really free, expressive, exaggerated, and like really highly energetic movement. And it makes it immediately recognizable. And Crump like caught on quickfire on TikTok. And the sisters were like, this isn't really our style, but also he has a lot of followers. So why not dance? And so they start to collab together, and the girls get like a lot of followers and likes and stuff after that, right? So they keep collaborating. And the younger sister realizes that they've been group chatting, but she's taken out of the group chat. So it's just her sister and this guy. Of course, they caught feels for each other. And it's like, your modern love story, right? Like meeting kind of online and then dancing together for TikTok. Like it's unique, but very much like the modern way. And this would be all fine and good, except this guy is part of 7M. Um, which, as it turns out, is more than just an agency who wants to help TikTok dancers become their best selves. I mean, on the front, it looks like that. And also, if you're religious, it's even better too, because the guy who's running 7M is also a pastor of this church called Shekinah. And it's very much like, I just want to look out for you guys and I want to take your careers to the next level. I can bring you money and success and fame, basically all the stuff that a snake oil salesman would try to sell you, right? Like, if you just join me and do what I say, I can make all of your dreams come true. Like, what people need to realize is that there's no such thing as genies out here. Like, there's no like easy steps and like skipping over things. Like, you have to actually work hard and not try to take the easy way out. or think, if this sounds too good to be true, it most likely is too good to be true. So, anyway, these girls were never like religious growing up, these sisters. So it was kind of like let's maybe go to a church service and see what's about, but I'm not 100% sure. And because apparently these sisters have never had like church in their lives growing up, they don't really know what to expect. So all of the language and like increasingly crazier devotion to not just the church but the leader, it doesn't strike them as odd at first because they don't know what to expect. They've never gone to church on the regular. And so the younger sister's like, okay, it's not for me, I'm good. But the older sister, the one who is in love with the guy who is in this church slash 7M agency slash cult, she really wants to impress him. She really wants to be with him. She's going to all the church services 2-3 times a week. And from the younger sister's point of view, she's saying that she no longer wanted to dance with her sister. And so that's why the like Wilking Sisters TikTok account like fell apart and they make separate accounts. In a recent Instagram TikTok post with a press release from the older sister after this Netflix doc has aired, she just said that her younger sister actually locked her out of the account because she was mad that she was going to church more and more and she didn't really agree with her views. So she could never get access to the account, even though she did want to dance with her sister still. Family drama. Like, it's a mess, right? We love it. So on and on, like more and more TikTok dancers are joining this 7M group. And basically it's a bunch of kids who just, are really talented and like super, starry eyed and like hoping that life's going to give them everything because they're talented. But it's so hard to like get a foot in the door. It's so hard to separate yourself from the crowd of other like-minded dancers who come to LA for a shot and opportunity. And obviously the whole industry is super, super crowded. And so they're like, okay, I need an agent. I need, money behind me. I need this, I need that. So the Shekinah church group, they have a lot of money. They have a lot of resources. And it's, we get more into that later, but this Shekinah church is like, you know what, we can support you, we can give you housing, food, clothing, we can shoot your videos, we can promote you, and all you have to do is, follow the Lord and follow the man of God. And this is where it gets a little bit more weird because the whole man of God thing is the pastor of a church, right? But in his mind, he's like, if you follow the man of God, if you're close to the man of God, then you become closer to God himself. That just sounds a little bit like you're just playing around with the scripture now, because I don't remember this guy's name showing up in the Bible anywhere during my like high school Catholic classes. So a bit odd. I don't remember seeing anyone's name mentioned in the Bible who is born now in these days that I am the man of God and that you're going to be close to God if you do whatever this man of God tells you to do. So it sucks all around because it is taking advantage of these people's beliefs. Like there are people who were actually religious before joining this church and, had grown up in the church and kind of like as adults just, didn't have much time for it anymore. And so when they found that this was not only just church, but this could help their businesses and their livelihood and a free room and board and meals for that too, like it's amazing. So why not? And of course, people are going to think, anything associated with religion is going to be a safe bet and they'll be fine. But of course, there are 3 episodes in this documentary series that shows how quickly everything did not become fine. So we go into the actual history of this Church of Shekinah because this is not this guy's first rodeo, This cult leader has been charismatic and greedy and controlling and manipulative his whole adult career, it seems. I mean, he's even been in the news before for what he was doing with his cult back in the day when originally it started. It was really like a very multicultural group, a lot of, immigrants really gravitated towards this because the pastor, man of God, he's of Asian descent. So there were a lot of immigrants who were like, this feels safe. This feels like a second home. We actually focus on a different set of sisters who fell into this cult way back when. Um, they didn't really have any parental guidance. Mom was an alcoholic, dad was nowhere to be found. So these sisters were really just raising each other. And the idea of a church where, there's classes with other kids like you, and there's room and board and food, like it all sounds amazing to these girls who are just basically orphaned by their parents. And so they end up going to a service and moving in with this pastor and his wife and other people in the church. And he apparently has like so many houses that he like starts rotating people to different houses, and there's always like a moving day every like couple of months. And eventually he separates these sisters, and that bond that they have is just slowly and but surely disintegrated by all this cult like behavior. His like main teaching is to die to yourself. So it's just selfish to have needs and wants for yourself because it's a sin, right? And he says you should die to your wants and your needs and all these other things because it'll get you closer to the man of God, closer to heaven, closer to God himself. And also, if you follow whatever he says and does and tells you, you will be guaranteed to get into heaven, right? And of course, with cult leaders, they just take and take and take and take. And it's not just like your money, it's not just tithing, but he takes like their mental health. Like he takes everything from the money they make while working for the church. So he has, of course, several offshoot businesses because he needs to make money. Like this is a greedy man. He has like real estate, um, corporations and food corporations and store corporations, and he's making all of his church members work there. And then any money that they make goes back to the church. Because, of course, tithing to the church means that you are doing better and following the man of God's wants and wishes, and you're getting closer and closer to God. And basically just terrorizing these people, saying, like, if you don't do this, you'll go to hell. And hell is like burning fire and flames and da da da. And mind you, these are like young kids who kind of, don't know anything else. They haven't had their first real job. They haven't had like any actual professional experience in the real world out there. They're just following what he says. I mean, even his kids are like super close to him and doing everything that he wants them to do and being successful. I mean, his businesses were making a lot of money. And instead of, you know, these members thinking for themselves, they're thinking, oh, it's because the man of God, told me to do this. And because I'm, working for something so holy and special, like, of course, this is how the blessings are coming because it's coming from him instead of their own hard work and sacrifice. So, of course, there's like so many bad things that come from unchecked power. There's sexual assault, there's a lot of mental manipulation, there's being cut off from family, other friends outside of the church. There's a lot of fear tactics. There's even like allegations of, you know, hostages and people not being able to leave, and people being demanded to just basically be indentured servants to this guy forever, right? Um, so eventually these new set of sisters that we follow do escape the church. One escapes with the help of her friend who is outside of the church, who he attended like one service and was like, this is not for me. Like, no. So he helps her escape. She tries to get her sister to escape, but her sister's already like so far gone mentally, like it's just blank. I'm not leaving because if you leave the church, then the threat is you guys all go to hell and your family goes to hell. So she's been indoctrinated, and it takes her 20 years to finally leave the cult. And we even see how affected she is by that versus her sister. And so it gets really, this documentary gets really deep and very sad very quickly because you can see something traumatic has happened, and even like how she is able to interact with her sister in present day, and how she's trying to build her life and be independent and think for herself. It's hard. Like this older sister, she still, listens to old recordings of the man of God, you know, and tries to, I guess, follow the good parts of his teachings and tries to separate herself from the bad. But what happened to her, I mean, it's intense. So like trigger warnings when you watch this documentary. Like by episode 2, it gets really dark. Um, but yeah. So the present day sisters, who are the one who's now still in this cult today, still goes to church Shekinah and still lives there on the property, you know, she's been kind of limiting access to her family, and like his whole idea of die to yourself now extends to die to your family. So he's like, you should cut yourself off from your family because they'll distract you from, you know, doing all the good things that God wants you to do. And you need to focus on that and not them, because otherwise they're going to lead you down this path to hell, and you won't let, and if you're doing good, then they can get into the heaven's gates and all that. Just like a lot of wild stuff to justify his complete power and control over these people. And it's also interesting to me that before all these people joined the church, kind of, these dancers had millions of followers on TikTok. Like they weren't just like nobodies out of nowhere. Like a lot of these people, like I said before, were on talent shows, like had toured with like major artists and singers. Like they weren't just like sitting around doing nothing. So this guy saw it and took advantage of it and was like, you know what? This is like going to be even better for me. Before I just had like a bunch of people work for my businesses. Now I can like get this all online and get more and more people to join and just stay trapped. So, of course, this present day set of sisters, which is the Wilking sisters, their family, the sister, the younger sister, the mom and dad, do a whole TikTok video basically outing and blasting Shekinah and 7M, saying, my daughter's in the cult, we need help, like, da da. And they start reaching out to other parents of other cult member dancers. And it's like a whole thing, and just like teamwork, rallying around, like calling other parents, trying to get the cops to take it seriously, trying to find a way, do we sue? Can we get them arrested? Can we like pull them out? But the whole tricky thing with this is like when you are parents of an adult child, there's so much that you can't do because they're an adult. The only way you can get these people out is if these people are reaching out for help themselves. Otherwise, these are grown adults. These are people with their own minds. They have the freedom to do whatever they want. And the best thing that these parents can do for their adult children is to just be open and wait for them in the wings with open arms, like always be that open line of communication so that when they're ready, they're ready. You can't just drag someone out of a cult. So yeah, it's very interesting how, I mean, it's very beautiful how the parents are just so determined to have their kids back, and they make such a fuss that the leader of the Shekinah church is like, okay, I gotta change my game plan. You can have contact with your family. You must have contact with your family. Otherwise, we're gonna get a bunch of legal trouble and press and publications, and everyone's gonna keep talking about this and trying to cause trouble for us. So I don't care if you want to see your family for Thanksgiving or not. You need to go and get in their faces and just make them know that you're there and alive. But you don't have, it doesn't matter if you want to see them or not, if you care or not. So basically, of course, this is like pacifying a lot of the parents because they just want to see their babies, They want to make sure that they're alive, breathing, safe in their arms and all that. And of course, most of these parents and siblings are like, okay, this is not my kid. There's like nothing behind the eyes. They're kind of dead inside. And most importantly, they cannot talk about the church. Like, they get very upset, extremely distressed if you talk negatively about the church and turn on any like cult talk. Which, on the one hand, I understand. Like, if there's something that I truly believed in and really enjoyed, and then the people I'm closest to, grew up with, love, are like talking smack about it and disparaging all of my choices, like, yeah, of course, I'd be upset. But I don't know if I would like alienate them from it and be like, you can't talk about it at all, or no, maybe like maybe I would like, okay, I need boundaries, with that, but I don't think I would just like completely disappear from my parents and sibling and be like, I'm not, if you bring us up again, I'm never talking to you ever again. Like, that's extreme. And I know people have done that for other things that are actually toxic situations. And you gotta do what you gotta do, protect yourself, protect your heart, protect your mind. But this kind of also shows just how much of a strong hold this guy has on these people. That even when you're in your family's arms, away from all of that, and free physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually, like, that cult guy has got a hold on you. And that's why like cults are so fascinating, that people have studied over the years, because it's like you don't see any physical hold, but the way these followers act out and just do whatever the leader tells them to do, it's insane what these guys can get you to do. Um, and females, I have watched some cult documentaries on HBO where there are female cult leaders. Mother God is one where it's definitely like a alien type of church. Our spirit and our souls will go to the aliens or something. But she is charismatic as well. Um, but also mentally ill. So, but anyway, back to the Netflix documentary. Yeah, so far it just seems like it's a lot of legal back and forth, and now we've got the sisters from the past meeting up with the older looking sister from the present, their parents, and kind of just giving them advice like, you have to still be hard about this cult, because if you pacify your adult child, like, oh yeah, you come over for Christmas and we're not going to talk about the cult, then you're kind of telling this adult child like, oh, it's okay that you can stay in this cult, and not putting pressure on them to leave or anything is kind of looked down upon. I mean, there's like two schools of thought. Like, you don't want to scare off your kid, right, and lose them forever. Um, but you also like want to talk some sense into them and be like, I've got you no matter what. I don't care what you've done. I don't care what you're part of. But if you want to have a safe space and come home, or, you know, but it's also hard because like these parents, once you grow up, you don't have to do what your parents expect you to do, right? And the way you want to live your life shouldn't be the way your parents want you to live your life. You shouldn't have to be held hostage to those expectations. But also, I don't want people to also be held hostage to a cult leader's expectations either. So it's hard. It's a double edged sword. I feel for these parents. Like, being a parent of adult kids, I can't imagine. Like, it was probably easier when they were like toddlers, and like every rule you had for them, it was like, either you do this rule, or, we get timeout, or, if you do this rule right, you get a treat. So I can't imagine how hard and difficult it is to be a parent of someone whose life you just basically don't agree with. But the proof is in the pudding, because what this guy has actually done is bad. What he has put people through is bad. So overall, this cult, the Shekinah group, the 7M TikTok dancing agency, is bad. Like, it just is. But it's just such a hard case to prove in like a court of law, because everything with, legal matters is you need proof, evidence, and you need not just one person coming forward and having an issue, but like dozens. That's why like these people get away with things for so long, because they isolate, they groom, and they make these people think that they're the only ones going through something so horrible. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, they're doing this to millions of other people. Well, not millions, but who knows how far this guy's reach is, especially with the advent of, social media and the internet. And so it's like, it sucks so much for the victims and people who don't think they're going to be believed, because history shows we don't believe victims. We don't believe survivors. And it's just horrible. So this documentary kind of ends kind of with a lot of legal issues going on. We got people suing, we got people serving, which is pretty like badass on the side of the survivors, who are like, you know what, I have been silent for so long and I've been screaming at myself in my head and feeling alone for so long that this needs to get out there. And, you know, nothing's really moved forward. We get a lot of audio recordings from the Shekinah church and like his lessons, which, I mean, when you hear them, you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy is a megalomaniac. He's like insane. He's power hungry. But people are still following him and people are still doing his bidding and making him money. Like, he is untouchable at this point. So I'm interested to see like what actually happens in real time, if anyone's, still following this. A lot of the dancers actually left the 7M agency, which is good for them. And I saw like updates. Some are like teaching kids how to dance. One was actually a dancer on Beyonce's Renaissance World Tour, which is so cool. And it's also so validating for them that you can have a successful life without this guy, this crazy teaching, this cult leaders, messages of you must die to yourself and you can't have what you want. Like, that has to be so amazing and healing for them. And I'm really glad that it hasn't killed a lot of their love for dance, even though that is such a hard, crazy, traumatic thing to get through. But yeah. And of course, in real time, the others who are still in this cult are still dancing on TikTok and getting millions of views, and you know, life goes on. So I was like so doubtful of this documentary, because I'm like, really, TikTok? Like, what more do we need to hear about TikTok? Like, I'm actually having fun on it, just passing time and doing what I want to do and having fun and interacting with people. But like, I didn't think it could get any more serious than like, wow, this got 5 million views for a close zoom in on someone's face. So I'm actually glad that I like finally like sat down and listened to the whole and watched the whole thing, because this is wild. And you really need to be careful still. You need to be careful who you follow in life, online, and in person, and just continue to think with your own mind and make your own choices. Don't follow the crowd. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So, yeah, highly recommend it. Netflix doc, Dancing for the Devil. It just came out like probably last month, in May. So, check it out. Let me know what you think, and if there's any other documentaries that I should watch on Netflix and review next. Like, let me know, and maybe I'll be like interested and give it a go. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Bad Millennial Podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye. Thanks for listening.